As the clock approached midnight, I heard faint music and laughter seeping from the grand ballroom. I cautiously entered, only to have the clamor cease immediately. There, around 20 spectral figures stood still as statues, their attention fixed solely on me. The silence was chilling, no movement, no sounds, not even a spectral breath. The only distinguishable features on their ethereal forms were their eyes, glowing faintly in the gloom. They did nothing, just stared. Their expressions remained unreadable, but the weight of their gaze was intense. I was an uninvited guest at their eternal New Year's Eve party. I left, their stares still heavy on my back. Their spectral silence was a haunting reminder of the manor's timeless occupants.
In the wee hours of the night, I was roused from a restless sleep by the haunting notes of a piano. Venturing down to the music room, I found the grand piano playing itself, the keys pressed by invisible hands. The melody that filled the manor was both chilling and strangely captivating. The ghosts of this house sure know how to serenade the midnight hour.
Dare I admit that my bravado was beginning to wane? Tonight I decided to visit the portrait hall, a grand corridor adorned with centuries-old portraits of the manor's former inhabitants. Ancestral faces, painted with a precision that captured each wrinkle, each spark in their eyes, watched from their gilded frames. As I strolled down the hallway, I couldn't shake the feeling of being observed. A sudden chill crept up my spine when I realized the eyes in the portraits seemed to follow me, their gazes tracking my every move. An unsettlingly surreal sight. Then, to my utter disbelief, one of the portraits, an austere gentleman in a ruffled cravat, winked at me. As the shock subsided, I chuckled, a nervous laugh echoing in the silence. These specters had a sense of humor. Turning to leave, I felt a cold breeze brush past me, accompanied by the faint scent of lavender. The candle in my hand flickered out, plunging the hall into darkness. A moment of stark terror seized me, but then the overhead chandelier lit up spontaneously, bathing the room in a warm glow. The manor's ethereal residents were full of surprises, and I realized they were not to be feared, but rather embraced as the unique companions they were. After all, their amusing antics and elusive enchantments were what made the Haunted Manor a place unlike any other.
I'm hurt. Pushed downstairs. Can barely move. Bleeding badly. If you're reading this, tell them I was here. My name is John Doe.
Stepping through the iron gate of the Haunted Manor, the air prickled at my skin. The manor loomed ominously, its towers a silhouette against the twilight sky. The wooden floor creaked underfoot, and I felt watched. An inexplicable chill washed over me as I approached the grand staircase, accompanied by a faint, almost nostalgic scent of roses. I could not help but shiver, the thrill of the unknown awakening my senses. Night fell and shadows played tricks on my eyes. Figures seemed to form and vanish in the corners of my vision. The temperature dropped, and I heard distant piano notes whisper through the corridors. The grand ballroom, bathed in moonlight, held an air of forgotten grandeur. Returning to my chamber, I heard faint whispers, like echoes of old tales. Despite the spectral inhabitants, a strange comfort settled over me as I prepared for the night. The Haunted Manor was a place where the past refused to fade.
I opted for an overnight stay. My chamber was a relic of time, drenched in shadowy splendor and centered around a grand four-poster bed. In the dead of the night, I fell into a terrifying dream. A gnarled old woman, her eyes vacant yet penetrating, lay beside me, staring and smiling a chilling smile. We watched each other, frozen in a nightmarish tableau that seemed to stretch on for hours. After what felt like an eternity, I managed to wrench myself from the dream's cruel grasp, awakening in a cold sweat, tears streaming down my face. The dream had been so intensely real that the relief of awakening was met with an overwhelming sense of dread. As I bolted from the room, a cackling laughter echoed hauntingly behind me. I didn't dare to turn around. It was then I realized dreams in the haunted manor might not be mere illusions of slumber.
My second night in the Haunted Manor was an eerily fascinating experience. I had found my way to the Grand Library, where an air of silent stories resided. Books, older than anyone alive today, were neatly stacked on dark wooden shelves, their spines worn and faded. As I sat to read, I heard the hushed rustling of pages turning on their own, an invisible reader engrossed in the ancient tales. An antique chandelier overhead flickered, casting long, dancing shadows on the marble floor. Later, as I walked down the cold stone corridors, the echo of my footsteps was suddenly complemented by another set. But every time I turned around, the footsteps ceased, and I found no one behind me. Finally, in the dim candlelight of the dining room, I watched a chair pull itself out from the table. An unseen presence settled, and a phantom dinner party began, laughter and chatter filling the room. The Haunted Manor was alive in its own unique spectral way.
Today, I mustered the courage to explore the manor's cellar. A long, winding path took me deeper underground, the air growing increasingly cold with each step. At the end of the corridor, I found a heavy, locked door. From behind it, an eerie tune was being whistled, an unexpected sound in the otherwise silent manor. I knocked on the door. No answer, but the whistling continued, growing louder as though the whistler was inching closer to the door. Intrigued yet nervous, I peered through the keyhole. Suddenly, the whistling ceased. A chilling sense of dread washed over me when I heard soft breathing from behind. I spun around but found no one. Fear took over and I ran, leaving behind the whistling and the eerie breath in the cellar. As I write this, from inside the manor, the distant echo of the whistling tune still fills my ears. I can't help but hope that the chilling melody will cease when I finally step out of this place.
A curious phenomenon took place as I was ascending the grand staircase of the manor this evening. The sprawling staircase, adorned with ornate banisters, is in itself a marvel. But tonight, it was the shadows that seized my attention. The manor is dimly lit, the ghostly light casting an array of shadows around me. As I climbed the staircase, I noticed one shadow that stood stark against the rest. A tall, slender figure, unattached to any source. It seemed to mimic my movements, growing longer as I climbed higher, shrinking as I descended. It followed a rhythm that was not my own. I turned back, looking for its source, but found none. The figure was eerily human-like, its shadowy form appearing to wear a long cloak and hat, akin to the fashions of a bygone era. My curiosity piqued. I stepped closer, reaching out to touch it. To my astonishment, the shadow recoiled, as though aware of my intentions. It flickered for a moment before disappearing completely, leaving me alone on the staircase. As I write this entry, I can't shake off the feeling of being watched. The atmosphere in the manor feels heavy, charged. I'm left to wonder what or who the shadow belongs to. Could it be a resident spirit, or just another mystery of the haunted manor? Only time will tell.
As night fell, I arrived at the Haunted Manor. I found a room that looked like it used to belong to a child. The room was full of old toys that still had their colours. One toy, a spinning top, stood out. It started spinning all by itself. The room went cold, and I felt a sense of unease. Then I heard a faint giggle. It sounded like a child's. I turned to see a ghostly child disappearing into thin air. I'm writing this entry while the top is still spinning on its own. The child's laughter is still in my ears. It's a strange reminder that you're never alone at the Haunted Manor.
Everywhere I go in the manor, I feel the presence of a little girl trailing behind me. Her soft footsteps echo in the silent halls, growing increasingly louder as she draws nearer. I can see her out of the corner of my eye, a small figure dressed in a white, ghostly dress. When I first noticed her, she was just a mere shadow in the corner of the room. Now, every time I dare to glance behind, she's just steps away. As I write this entry, I can sense her standing merely a meter behind me. her silent stare palpable. Her footsteps follow me throughout the manor, a constant reminder of her proximity. The doors of the manor are all locked, leaving me trapped inside with her. I can hear her footsteps trailing mine, growing increasingly louder in the eerie quiet. Every corner I turn, every room I enter, she is there, just steps behind me. I don't know what she wants, but the fear gnawing at me urges me not to find out. What will happen if I dare to turn around again? I shudder at the thought. I can only hope that when dawn comes I might find an escape.